Hey everyone, it's Pat Brown here, doing another Cat 5 critique, this time of the training crit going down in T-Town. We're riding with John here today. This is the B race, so if you want to get a taste of some racing, this is a great way to do it, and also to gain some fitness and some pack skills. So, let's get started here. So this happened on, I believe, April 23rd, or the week of April 23rd. Ended up being a beautiful day, quite a bit windy, so I had warned John that you're probably going to get some splits, and don't be afraid to work a little bit more today, since there are going to be more splits, and you want to make sure on the correct side of them. So it's pretty much a given if it's really windy, unless the group is overly motivated. Typically, you're going to get some splits, you're going to get some breakaways, and yeah, you'll go from there. So the setup for this event, you'll have the first 3 laps of the B race will be basically you're just rolling around for the first 2 laps. You're behind your pacer, and so the pacer will be making sure that you're not going too fast so everyone can stay on. They can still see that you have to put out some power to stick with the group. Now, to see if you're going to be in the A or the B race. The B race starts at 5:30. The A race starts at 6:05. B race, that's going to be your category 5s or novices, your category 4s, and even some of your masters riders that maybe aren't categorized at all. Okay, if you're brand new, you're going to want to go into the B group. Now, you're able to upgrade to get up to the A group. Now, upgrades aren't through USA Cycling. They are just for this specific event. So check out the flyer if you haven't seen that yet or aren't sure what to do, or you can send us a message on Instagram there. So we're just rolling around here. So I like how John here is saving some energy. He's just putting out what he needs to stay with the group. Now, one thing to note is the wind direction. Like I said, it's very windy. So, wind direction, we're going to be taking this left here. You'll have one more almost 90-degree left turn. Once we make that, we're going to be on the final straight. So this is the second to last straight here. We'll head into the last turn to the left here soon, and then you'll feel that crosswind. Typically, it's coming from the left to the right. Sometimes it's a slight head, sometimes it's a slight tail. So now here's our last turn. It's a swooping left-hander. Still, sometimes if you're going really fast, you can't pedal, but for the most part, you can. So, you can't really see any flags or anything like that, but we're getting some left to right crosswinds here. So for the rest of the race, you'll know if you're on this part of the course, you kind of want to be onto the right side if you're sprinting, but it makes it a little bit tough because that side tends to get a little bit clogged up. So something to note there. Then we're going to be heading kind of straight into it, and then it'll be on your right side. So really, unless you're in a pace line, you're going to be exposed at some point. So I wouldn't expect John to be out of the wind the whole time, but I think he's doing a pretty good job at keeping some riders to the left and the right, getting used to some pack riding skills, and yeah, going from there. All right. Now, something else to note about the course here. So we just came around that swooping right-hander, the big swoop, and we start on a false flat. So we're going uphill a little bit, and we'll go down just a touch to where it's flat again, and then we start the one significant climb. Now, when I say significant climb, it's not your 5-minute climb. It's probably like a 30-second climb or less, depending on how fast you're going. So typically, a lot of people will really put down some energy here just to stay either near the front or to try to make an attack. So this is an area to be mindful of, and if you're trying to springboard something, you're a little bit lighter. As long as you are able to go over the top, that's going to be your best bet. So getting a little gap over the top and then maintaining it is really the only way that you're going to get a break at that point in the course. So something that's very very typical that happens. There's always a pretty good surge there, whether you're in the A's or the B's. Alright, so now we are going down kind of the back stretch, so that is going to be a right to left crosswind here. So he has some riders kind of on his right. We'll be heading into a tailwind, and now we're getting to the point where we're nearing the start of the third lap. So you'll see people are starting to jockey for position. We're starting to put out probably a little bit more power. We're getting up to speed here, because when that bell rings, it's all open, okay? And so it's all open for the rest of the race. Now, the A race is a little bit different. You're going to get a regroup after the first sprint, and then at the second spell, that's when it opens up. And so the B's are doing 15 miles or 15 laps. The A's are doing 30. Something just to keep in mind there. Alright. So I'd say, now if you're going for the sprint, I would be ready to try to jump onto any sort of wheels as you can here. So kind of trying to get positioned, if you're trying to go for the first sprint, trying to get positioned ideally on the right side, or just off to the left to where you're able to slide into the riders that are moving up on the left. Really, if something really goes, you're not going to get very much shelter at all. So you just need to be prepared and try to save as much energy for those really key moments. So we'll let this play out here a little bit. It looks like you're getting some bumping going on. That's good. Now right here, I would be focusing not on the rider that's right in front of you, but look at what, a few riders up to the front of the group. What are those riders doing? If they start to accelerate, even if the person in front of you is not accelerating, I would try to move to the right or to the left a little bit, follow that acceleration of the leaders of the group, as long as you're relatively close to the front, and then from there, you're going to slide to the left or slide to the right to either move up to follow that acceleration, or, oh, there's some more bumping, or you're going to want to, accelerate, either make some passes, or let the people. I like that pass on the left side. That's perfect there. All right, you'll probably get pinched here a little bit. Probably on the brakes a little. That's okay, because you accelerated hard into them. But you want to try to keep your momentum the best you can. So whether that's making the pass, if you have to make that acceleration with the leaders, or you might find that the person in front of you will accelerate really sharply, but because you started accelerating earlier, you'll be able to save a little bit of energy and stay on that wheel, even though the wheel in front of you is moving back and then forward a little bit. Alright, so we're going into the first sprint. I would be mindful of any gaps that start to open, because that will be something that you really have to try to close down. Alright, so thinking about the sprint, I like the inside, because you don't have to worry about riders crashing out and heading into you from your inside. Nice power. That's awesome. But you do have to worry about the left to right crosswind. So, although you're using a little bit more energy here, you know that you're probably going to get some separation here, as long as people keep pedaling and keep working. So I think you found the perfect wheel. You see someone who's keeping on pedaling and is looking up the road. I think you're perfectly in the draft, because right now we're a right to left. Obviously I can't feel it, but I would assume so. I'd start to try to move off to the right side of that rider, unless he flicks his elbow. Now the tough thing to see here, you want to be feeling the wind. I'd probably get to the right. Perfect. Yep, you're good. So you're feeling that out. Now, I'm not going to be able to say, where you can feel it the most, but keeping an eye on that means you could be saving, 20% of your power just by staying in the draft there. So you can tell this guy is quite motivated. If they want to flick you to have you come through going up the hill, I would go for it because everyone's matched for power. If you try to attack going down the hill, they're going to be in the draft and have a lot more draft from you. Now it's a little bit tough to see because I'm not sure what's happening right behind, but we'll probably see in a moment here after you kind of move back a little bit. Sometimes it's tough to judge whether you are going to be heading up and basically creating a split. So basically at this point I would, if you haven't already, I would just turn, quick look behind you and see what the situation is behind. If you have a gap and you think that you're with the right guys, it's time to go. If you have a gap and you think that these guys probably aren't going to be able to last it the whole race, they're probably not the stronger guys, or maybe there's one or two really strong guys in the back of the pack that are going to chase it back. Something to weigh whether you want to work here. It looks like you kind of do want to work. Maybe not. Let some other guys go through. Oh, this guy's been pulling for ages here, almost a full lap. So good on him. It looks like there are a few other riders here with you. From what I remember, there were a few riders in your group, and so I think you start to get organized here soon. We'll take a look. Like how you're off to the left a little bit because we have that right to left crosswind. It looks like some time for some work. So I like how you save some energy there, so when you put in the work, you're able to put down some good wattage there. So that's great. I would just keep on trying to keep it smooth. Flick that elbow, and you want to flick the elbow and keep putting down power for 1.5, 2 seconds more, just to make sure that that person behind you isn't going to cross your wheel. So either there's a little bit of a gap there, so either some people are really itching to get things going, or some people are tired and don't want to close down those wheels. So both things are something to focus on. If there are gaps that start to open, you might be able to tell who is hurting from the efforts that they just undertook. So it looks like there's at least a small group of guys here. Like you're saving energy, you're staying on the downwind side, that's perfect. It also happens to be the inside, which I like because people typically leave that open on here. Just be careful not to get pinched, and if it feels like you're getting pinched, get those elbows out a little bit so then people give you more room. Especially if, like in that situation, you started in front of the handlebars of the T-Town rider. So that means that you're on the inside and your handlebars are in front. So that means you're in control of that turn compared to the T-Town rider. Now the people in front of you, if they start to deviate or move, you're at their mercy if you're kind of crossed up with wheels. But that T-Town rider, even though he's probably a little bit wider built than you, don't be afraid to be a little bit assertive, because that might save you a little energy. And speaking of saving energy here, I believe this should be coming on to a bell lap. If not one already. Nope, that should be onto the bell lap. So this, at the end of this, we should get probably get more of a selection, more of a separation here. And I'm just assuming that basically these are the riders that are away, because remember there was a decent sized group that stayed away. So although you'll be losing a little bit of positioning, if you feel confident that the guy in the Cervelo with the maroon bib shorts is going to be fine, then I'd just jump on the wheel. So that's perfect. You're getting downwind. You're saving some energy here. I think that's perfect. That's a great move there. Alright, so it looks like you saw some gaps opening. I think that was great. Oh, they take it pretty tight, or else I saw what you were trying to do there. Really try to jam that inside. It was good thinking. Sometimes the door gets closed. So if the door gets closed, then that's kind of that. And you'll see some riders will kind of leave that open for the most part, and some riders will shut it right down. So something to note with this rider of the tall white socks in front of me here. I like how you're anticipating that acceleration, but kind of got caught on the wrong side of that T-Town rider. Perfectly fine. I like how you're going downwind here to make it around. So this is for a sprint, so we'll see. Let's see what you can do. I think you can thread that needle. Ooh, probably had to pull a little brake there. Yeah. So, perfectly fine there. I would say with that sprint, it looked like there was an opening, and it just started to close down. So that's basically, you have to think, either you really need to accelerate now to get your handlebars in front of those two guys, uh, or you back down and you save your efforts for another time, because you know you'll have another sprint coming up here. So if you, for some reason, if you're not able to sprint, but you have, you're following pretty good wheels, what I would do, if you're feeling all right enough, I would try to do a little attack or a little dig right after to make those sprinters suffer a little bit. So in that case, if you had to pull the brakes a little bit and you're not going to get any points, make that effort matter by making everyone else do more effort. Because as you saw, everyone kind of started soft pedaling, the speed went down as they're trying to recover. So with you not doing that full effort, then you might be able to get a full effort in and make their full effort then pull them into the red a little bit. Something you can do if you feel confident in the group that you're in, that you're gonna stay away. And I think a day like today, you're probably going to stay away. Alright, you're downwind, that's perfect. Can't happen all the time, but it does look like you are most definitely getting it right a lot of the times. Sometimes, no matter what you do, positioning is going to be a little bit off, and that's perfectly fine, especially if you're saving up energy for all the other times that you're going around the course. And like this effort here, you're not going totally into the red, but you're keeping the pace nice and high, 25, 26 miles an hour. So that's good, and then it looks like you just gave a flick, so hopefully some other riders will come up through. I thought that was good. You want to just try to avoid, especially if, you want to try to avoid pulling a lot on the front, unless you're just trying to get out for fitness and you're not worried about the sprints. Excuse me. Alright, so it looks like it has dwindled down to the 4 riders here. 4 riders in front of you, so you're a group of 5. So one of you is going to be out of the points, which makes an interesting dynamic. how you're downwind, saving some energy. That looks perfect. I would say that's probably working on the drafting and that. I think that's definitely something that you've made some really big improvements on, especially with how many turns this course takes. I think that you're looking for the right wheels. You're looking up the road, and you're really focused on that wind. When you can be. Obviously, you're not going to pull on the brakes or sprint around to someone to get onto the other side. So you're going to have to eat wind sometimes, but it seems like more times compared to not, you're really doing well with sticking on the good side, or sliding yourself over to the left or to the right depending on where the wind's coming. Looks like a little bit of a lull where people aren't trying to do very much work here. That's quite a big surge. Alright, I would, obviously I can't feel where the wind is, but I'd maybe try to slide to the right just a little bit, and even just to get a feel for if that's a little bit better position. So sometimes when you're in a spot, you're not going to be exactly sure whether that's the absolute best. So scooting a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, you'll feel and you'll hear a little bit of a difference, especially if you're on a straightaway that's rather lengthy. So I would say you're probably your 5 are well established. Now those people on the course aren't supposed to be there. So I'd say you 5 are well established. It's just going to be saving some energy when you can, and then trying to get those points. So this actually should be a bell lap. So we'll take a look and see how you fare with the sprints here. So I think you're doing well in terms of
Black Riders.
Excuse me. I think you're doing well. You're positioned near the front, but I'd say probably a little bit too far forward, because he's going to probably try to flick his elbow to let you come through well before you want to. So it's a little bit of a gamble whether you want to, possibly slide back. It might be a little bit too late to slide back. So you kind of have a decision whether to go right when he has you pull off, or maybe he's going to take a monster pull and see what he can do to split the group, or to possibly just go really early and do like a diesel attack. It seems like he's putting in some good power, forcing you to as well. But you're going at a pretty good speed here, 28. Gonna like to sprint into the draft, go to the right. Perfect. Good, keep those watts down. Because you keep putting down the power. That's excellent. So that's exactly what I would have wanted to do. So a few things that you did great there. All right, so you had the rider in front of you pretty much created a sprinter's gap, right? So he had accelerated around that turn where you let off a little bit, which is perfectly fine. Now, so Excuse me. So with that, you had that sprinter's gap. So you started sprinting into him. He took into consideration where the wind was coming. So the wind's coming from left to right, so you want him to block the wind as much as possible. So you went off to his right, you stayed relatively close to him. And then one thing that I would have said that maybe could have improved a little bit is it looks like you started to move to the left a little bit. Now there might have been a rider, like a left rider or something like that, that might have made you move over a little bit. But what I would do, since it's a left to right crosswind on the finish, I would recommend go straight for the line. And when you're going straight for the line, you want to avoid especially moving left. So if you move left, someone behind you might be able to do the exact same thing that you just did. So with that being said, you don't want to give any riders behind you that opportunity of the draft. So kind of keeping right in that situation, I think could maybe be the one thing that you could have improved upon. But to tell you the truth, I thought that was textbook. You accelerated into, you came around the downwind side, and you took all the points there. So that was excellent. I'm curious what your heart rate is here, where you're kind of sitting at in terms of overall effort. That would definitely be something cool to take a look at in the future. Alright, so we have 2 sprints left. We have one that finishes on 12 miles, and we have one that finishes on 15, which is the last sprint. Now, I believe you make it to this sprint, and then you kind of blow up a little bit, which is fine. And now you kind of know where it's not like it's something that is lost on you, right? So when you have these efforts like this, and you find yourself you're on the limit, and you're kind of pushing to see how far you can go, it's a great thing to find that limit and perhaps go a little bit beyond it and force yourself to to have to kind of stop. So with that, then the next time that you're racing, if there are some big efforts, and you know that it's going to push you too far, then maybe it's not the right time to attack. Or in the case of the Thursday night races, maybe it's not time to go for a sprint, and maybe just to sit in, so you don't go way into the red, and then to the point where it's not recoverable. Looks like there's a dig being put in here. That's some good power. And that's looking just fine there. Just holding onto the wheel. So, as we go through the finish here, it should be rigging for that last sprint, so we'll take a look. It looks like from what I can tell, the power has been a bit higher in between the laps, and even just in general, it seems like you're taking more time just in the higher power zones, which isn't necessarily bad. It just might be that's what everyone else is doing. But with that being said, trying to think about how that feels and where you're at I think will help with giving you a little bit better idea. So I think you're out of the draft there. If you're stuck to the right a little bit more, then that might have prevented you to have to, fall back and then have to accelerate so sharply. It's perfectly fine that that's what you did. I would say that will probably set you up a little bit better for the sprint. So, a few different ways to look at it. Maybe not the most advantageous in terms of energy conservation overall, but in terms of the sprint, having 5 guys in front of you with a mile to go is probably a pretty good place to be, I would say. All right, we'll see how this is taken here. Just keep in mind, obviously you're hurting. Keep in mind with the wind, because I'm sure the wind's still blowing from that left to right. Now turning in toward the headwind. Still trying to keep that head up. Right when you see someone accelerate, you know it's time to get moving. Well before it's the person right in front of you. Good, I like this. You're hugging that tight. You're getting a little bit better draft. Good, I like that positioning right here. You're saving a lot of energy, and that's why you're able to coast when that person still had to pedal in front of you. Now, keep an eye on the speed. It looks like things are slowing down a little bit. Oh, you're really on that line. That's great. Now people are kicking it up. We'll kind of just see how it plays out.
Outside.
So might be a little bit too eager. We'll see. If you were on that guy's wheel, which, shoulda, coulda, woulda. If you were on that guy's wheel, then you would have had a great draft all the way up. I probably would have tried the same thing that you did in terms of trying to stay on the inside. Alright. A little bit more. Get that third. Good. So I would say if you're already kind of away with those sprints, I would try to stay on it. So if it's better to accelerate once and then sustain as compared to accelerating twice. So that would be the one thing there, but you're in a tough place because you're probably going a little bit too far out compared to what you wanted. So I think this is where your body's just telling you that's the limit. I'd like to tell you, you got third place there. That was great. You really went for that objective. There you are. You're probably looking at the camera saying that's all you got. That's perfectly fine. So hey, great work out there. Keep up the great work with drafting, keeping the head up, and next week I'm sure you'll have gotten a little bit stronger, and you'll be able to perhaps even do a little bit more, and continue working on those sprints and the positioning, and hopefully it'll be a little less windy. All right, we'll catch you next time.